Steve's Sleep Experiment: From Social Media Hacks to Science-Backed Solutions, Part 2. You're listening to Your Space Today, the podcast where we decode fatigue, stress, and burnout so you can rise again. Every Tuesday, we explore the hidden connections between your habits, your health, and your happiness, giving you the tools to take back your energy and your life. Hey there, welcome back to Your Space Today. Remember Steve from last week? The guy staring at his sleep diary with a mix of recognition and dread? Well, Steve did what millions of us do when we finally admit we have a problem. He turned to social media for a quick fix. I want you to picture this. It's 11 p.m. Steve's lying in bed, scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, desperately searching for the magic bullet that'll fix his sleep without requiring him to give up his evening whiskey, his late-night shows, or his midnight scrolling sessions. Sound familiar? Today's episode is about that journey, the one from, please let there be an easy fix, to, okay, I actually need to change my life. And here's the beautiful thing. Steve's story might be uncomfortable to hear at first, but it ends with real, lasting transformation. No magic pills, no overnight miracles, just honest science and sustainable change. We're going to follow Steve through the viral sleep hacks he tried: the Sleepy Girl Mocktail, mouth taping, melatonin supplements, you name it. Then we'll walk through the 8 evidence-based steps he finally took that actually worked. And I promise you, by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly why shortcuts fail and what genuine sleep recovery looks like. So, settle in, maybe grab that herbal tea we talked about last week, and let's continue Steve's journey. Quick disclaimer, this is educational, not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider. Let me tell you about Steve. He's like most of us. He didn't want to change his comfortable habits. He wanted a shortcut, something that would fix his sleep without giving up his evening routine. So before committing to real change, Steve did what millions do. He turned to social media for quick fixes. And the algorithm? Oh, it was ready for him. Within hours, Steve's feed was flooded with influencers promising miraculous sleep transformations. Let me walk you through what Steve tried. First up, the viral Sleepy Girl Mocktail. You've probably seen this one: magnesium powder, tart cherry juice, and sparkling water. Influencers were swearing it would boost natural melatonin production and deliver deep, restorative sleep. Steve mixed up his first batch. It tasted interesting. Sweet, fizzy, with that chalky magnesium aftertaste. The first night, he actually felt sleepy. Whether it was placebo or genuine magnesium relaxation, he couldn't tell. For about 48 hours, Steve thought he'd found his answer. Then night 3 arrived. The fizzy sugar bomb gave him a stomachache. He woke up bloated. By night 5, he was abandoning the whole thing. Here's what Steve didn't know. While magnesium may help some people with muscle relaxation, there's no controlled research showing this specific combination improves sleep quality. And that tart cherry juice? It contains natural sugars that can cause blood glucose spikes right before bed. Exactly what sleep science tells us to avoid. Steve's verdict: may be helpful for some, but not worth the gastrointestinal distress. Abandoned after 5 days. Next up, mouth taping. The promise sounded great. Breathe through your nose all night, reduce snoring, improve oxygen levels, wake up refreshed. Steve bought special sleep tape and committed to trying it. Night 1 was uncomfortable. Steve woke up at 2 a.m. in mild panic, ripping the tape off to gasp for air. His nose felt stuffy, and the sensation of not being able to open his mouth triggered anxiety he hadn't expected. He tried again with a smaller piece of tape. Same result. Fragmented sleep, more awakenings, and this lingering sense of suffocation. What Steve didn't know, there are 0 randomized controlled trials supporting mouth taping for healthy adults. Sleep physicians universally caution against it, especially for anyone with nasal congestion, sleep apnea, or anxiety. If you can't breathe through your nose easily while awake, taping your mouth shut at night is a terrible idea. For people with undiagnosed sleep apnea, it could even be dangerous. Steve's verdict: anxious, uncomfortable, and potentially risky. Abandoned after 2 nights. Determined to biohack his way to better sleep, Steve tried timing his sleep in strict 90-minute cycles. The theory was appealing. Each sleep cycle lasts about 90 minutes, so waking up at the end of a cycle should feel more refreshing than waking mid-cycle. Steve set his alarm for exactly 6 hours after bedtime. Except, he couldn't fall asleep exactly when he wanted. Some nights it took him 30 minutes to drift off. Other nights, he woke up naturally after 20 minutes and lay there worrying about the cycle timing. When the alarm went off, he felt groggy and unrefreshed, not because he'd woken mid-cycle, but because he was chronically sleep-deprived. The problem? Sleep cycles are averages, not fixed intervals. They range from 80 to 120 minutes and vary throughout the night. Forcing yourself to wake after a specific duration ignores individual biology, and if you're not getting enough total sleep, no amount of cycle optimization will help. Steve's verdict? Overthinking made things worse. Abandoned after 1 week of exhaustion. Finally, Steve grabbed a bottle of melatonin from the drugstore. Everyone said it was natural, so it must be safe, right? He popped a 5-milligram tablet an hour before bed. The first night, he fell asleep faster. Success! But he also woke up groggy and foggy-headed the next morning, what sleep researchers call a melatonin hangover. By the third night, the effect seemed weaker. By the end of the week, Steve was taking melatonin but still scrolling on his phone at midnight, still drinking his evening whiskey, still having caffeine at 4 p.m. Here's the thing about melatonin. It's a circadian timing signal, not a sedative. It tells your body it's nighttime, but it doesn't knock you out. Taking melatonin while simultaneously exposing yourself to bright screens, caffeine, and alcohol is like putting a closed sign on a shop while leaving all the lights on and the door wide open. It doesn't work. Steve's verdict? Mildly helpful at first, but not a substitute for fixing the real problems. Still in the medicine cabinet, but rarely used. After a month of trying quick fixes, Steve was still exhausted. His sleep diary showed minimal improvement. His weight hadn't budged. His irritability at work was getting worse. One morning, staring at himself in the bathroom mirror, puffy-eyed, pale, defeated, he had a realization. The problem wasn't that he hadn't found the right hack. The problem was that he was trying to fix his sleep without changing anything about his life. It was time to get serious. Steve sat down with the research materials he'd been avoiding and started reading. What he discovered wasn't complicated or expensive, but it did require changing his habits. I'm going to walk you through Steve's 8-step approach, organized from easiest to most demanding. If you're where Steve was, tired of being tired, this roadmap might help you too. Step 1. Fix your sleep environment. Steve started with the low-hanging fruit, making his bedroom actually conducive to sleep. These changes required no willpower, just a one-time setup. Temperature. Keep it cool. Research consistently shows that adults sleep best in a cool room, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Steve had been sleeping in a stuffy, warm bedroom because he thought warm equals cozy. But your core body temperature needs to drop to initiate sleep, and a cool room facilitates this. Steve lowered the thermostat to 67 degrees Fahrenheit at night and added a thin blanket he could adjust if he got chilly. Darkness. Block out every bit of light. Even low levels of light, like streetlights leaking through curtains, suppress melatonin production and shift your circadian rhythm later. Large studies have associated higher outdoor nighttime light exposure with increased risk of cognitive decline. Steve installed blackout curtains, covered the LED lights on his alarm clock and router with black electrical tape, and bought a simple eye mask as backup. Fresh air. Open a window or run a fan. Indoor carbon dioxide rises rapidly in closed bedrooms overnight. Research shows that keeping carbon dioxide below 1,000 parts per million reduces the risk of disturbed sleep. For context, outdoor air is typically 420 parts per million, while a closed bedroom with 2 people can exceed 1,500 parts per million by morning. Steve cracked his bedroom window about 2 inches, even in winter. On still nights, he ran a quiet fan for air circulation. He noticed fewer midnight awakenings and less morning grogginess. Sound. Create consistent background noise. Sudden noises, a car door slamming, a partner snoring, a dog barking, can fragment sleep even if you don't fully wake. Steve started running a small fan year-round for gentle white noise. On particularly noisy nights, he added foam earplugs. Why this works? Environmental changes don't require daily discipline. You set them up once and benefit every night. Within a week, Steve noticed he was falling asleep faster and waking up less often. Step 2. Time your bath or shower. Steve had always showered in the morning, but research suggested a different approach. A systematic review found that warm baths or showers taken 1 to 2 hours before bedtime modestly shorten sleep onset time and increase sleep quality. The mechanism? After the bath, your body temperature drops as blood vessels dilate to release heat, and this cooling signals your brain that it's time to sleep. Steve shifted his shower to 90 minutes before bed, around 9:30 p.m., if he aimed to sleep by 11 p.m. He made it warm, not scalding, and stayed in for 10 to 15 minutes. He used this time to mentally wind down, avoiding screens in the bathroom. It became a ritual that separated his day from his night. Step 3. Manage light exposure. This was where Steve had to change actual habits, but the science was too compelling to ignore. Morning. Get bright light as soon as possible. Bright morning light acts on specialized cells in your retina that project to your brain's master circadian clock. Exposure soon after waking suppresses residual melatonin and triggers a robust cortisol rise, helping set your circadian phase so melatonin rises earlier in the evening. Steve started taking his morning coffee outside, just 15 minutes on his small balcony, even on cloudy days. On weekends, he went for a short walk before breakfast. No sunglasses during this time. Evening. Dim everything down 1 to 2 hours before bed. Even moderate indoor lighting in the evening suppresses melatonin, delays its onset, and shifts your circadian clock later. This is why you get that second wind of alertness at 11 p.m., even though you were exhausted at 8 p.m. Bright lights are telling your brain it's still daytime. Steve replaced bright overhead lights with warm-toned lamps. After 9 p.m., he dimmed those lamps further or used only one small lamp. If he had to use his phone or laptop after 9 p.m., he enabled night shift mode and reduced screen brightness to minimum. Honest talk, this was hard. Steve loved his evening TV shows and phone scrolling. But he noticed that on nights when he dimmed the lights and limited screens, he felt sleepy by 10:30 p.m. instead of wired until midnight. His body was finally getting the signal that nighttime had arrived. Step 4. Rethink caffeine, alcohol, and evening food. This step required the most self-honesty and discipline. Steve had to confront his crutches. Caffeine. Set a cutoff time. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in the brain, the chemical that builds sleep pressure. With a half-life of 3 to 7 hours, a 4 p.m. coffee still has significant caffeine in your system at bedtime. Studies show that caffeine taken even 6 hours before bed disrupts sleep, even when people subjectively feel they're sleeping fine. Steve moved his caffeine cutoff to 2 p.m. He switched his afternoon coffee and energy drinks to herbal tea or sparkling water. The first week was rough. He felt sluggish around 3 p.m. By week 2, his natural energy improved and he no longer needed the artificial boost. Alcohol, the hardest conversation. Steve's evening whiskey wasn't just a drink. It was a ritual, a boundary between work and home, a way to unwind. But the research was unambiguous. Alcohol fragments sleep in the second half of the night, reduces REM sleep, and increases awakenings. Steve didn't quit entirely. That felt unrealistic. Instead, he made 2 rules: no alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime, and limited himself to 1 drink on weeknights. He replaced his evening whiskey ritual with a warm cup of herbal tea while sitting in his favorite chair. It wasn't the same, but after 2 weeks, he noticed he was sleeping more deeply and waking less often at 3 a.m. Evening food, light and early. Heavy meals, high-fat foods, or sugary snacks close to bedtime slow digestion, increase reflux risk, and cause blood sugar fluctuations that can wake you up mid-sleep. Steve moved dinner to 7 p.m. instead of 9 p.m. If he felt hungry before bed, he had a small snack, like a handful of nuts or a banana, not chips or cookies. Step 5. Build a pre-sleep wind-down routine. One of the biggest mistakes Steve had been making was going from 100% awake and stimulated at 10:45 p.m. to trying to sleep at 11 p.m. Your brain needs a runway, not a cliff. Steve created a consistent 60 to 90-minute wind-down routine. 9:30 p.m., warm shower. 10 p.m., dim lights, no more screens. 10:15 p.m., herbal tea and light reading, a physical book, not his phone. 10:45 p.m., brain dump journaling, writing down any worries or to-dos for tomorrow. 11 p.m., lights out, 5 minutes of box breathing. The key insight? This routine wasn't about rigid rules. It was about creating predictable signals that told his body sleep is coming. After about 10 days, Steve noticed he started yawning around 10:30 p.m. His body was learning. Step 6. Address revenge bedtime procrastination. Steve's late-night scrolling and binge-watching weren't random. They were his way of reclaiming time for himself after a day of obligations. Researchers call this revenge bedtime procrastination, sacrificing sleep to get some personal time. The problem? That stolen time came at the cost of his health, energy, and mood the next day. Steve made 3 changes. He protected daytime me time by blocking 30 minutes in his calendar 3 times a week. He set episode limits, 1 episode max on weeknights, binge watching saved for Friday nights. He used phone timers that automatically put his phone into Do Not Disturb mode at 10 p.m. It wasn't perfect. Some nights, Steve still stayed up too late. But most nights, he honored his need for rest and found that when he actually slept enough, he enjoyed his daytime life more anyway. Step 7. Add daytime movement and morning light. Regular physical activity is one of the most evidence-backed sleep interventions. Exercise increases adenosine in the brain and improves sleep duration, onset, and quality. The catch? Timing matters. Vigorous exercise too close to bedtime can raise core body temperature and stress hormones, making it harder to fall asleep. Steve committed to 30 minutes of moderate exercise, brisk walking, cycling, at least 4 times per week, finishing by 6 p.m. at the latest. On days he couldn't fit in formal exercise, he took a 15-minute walk at lunch. Combined with morning sunlight exposure, this helped anchor his circadian rhythm and build genuine sleepiness by bedtime. Step 8. The 20-minute rule. Despite all these changes, some nights Steve still couldn't fall asleep. The old Steve would lie there, frustrated, checking the clock every 15 minutes. The new Steve learned a crucial technique from cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Don't force it. The 20-minute rule. If you've been in bed for 20 minutes and aren't asleep, get up. Leave the bedroom. Do something quiet and boring in dim light. Read a dull book, do gentle stretches. Return to bed only when you feel sleepy. Why it works. You're retraining your brain to associate bed with sleep, not with frustration and wakefulness. Steve kept a boring book on his living room table. On nights he couldn't sleep, he got up, read a few pages under a dim lamp, and returned to bed when his eyelids felt heavy. He stopped fighting insomnia and started working with his body instead. Steve didn't transform overnight. The first 2 weeks were hard. He felt tired during the day, irritable from reduced caffeine, and slightly resentful about giving up his evening habits. But by week 4, something shifted. He started waking up before his alarm, not groggily dragging himself out of bed, but naturally, feeling rested. His sleep tracker showed he was averaging 7.5 hours per night instead of 6, with more time in deep and REM sleep. By week 8, the changes extended far beyond sleep. Steve had steady energy throughout the day, no more 3 p.m. crashes. He was less irritable, more patient with colleagues and family. He lost 8 pounds without consciously dieting. His late-night snacking had vanished. His focus was sharper at work, fewer mistakes. His face looked less puffy, dark circles faded. Most importantly, Steve felt like himself again. Not perfect, not superhuman, just rested, clear-headed, and capable. Steve chose the strategies we discussed because they fit his life and addressed his specific problems. But sleep improvement isn't one size fits all. Here are 2 additional techniques that many people find helpful, especially if stress and muscle tension are keeping you awake. Progressive muscle relaxation. This is a technique where you systematically tense and then release different muscle groups throughout your body. It physically releases the tension many of us carry without realizing it, and it occupies your mind with a simple, structured task. We'll soon be launching a playlist of guided progressive muscle relaxation recordings on our YouTube channel. Follow our profile to be notified when these go live. Acupressure mats. If chronic stress has left your muscles tight, an acupressure mat can be surprisingly effective. These mats promote blood flow and trigger the release of endorphins. A few important tips. Start slowly with just 5 to 10 minutes. Wear a thin shirt at first if it feels too intense. Set a timer. Falling asleep on the mat can be uncomfortable. Use it 30 to 60 minutes before bed, not right before sleep. Steve's story has a good outcome because his sleep problems were primarily behavioral, fixable with lifestyle changes. But not everyone's sleep issues respond to better habits. If you've implemented good sleep hygiene consistently for 4 to 6 weeks and you're still struggling, it's time to talk to a healthcare provider. Let me walk you through some sleep disorders that require medical attention. Chronic insomnia. Difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early, at least 3 nights per week for 3 months. When sleep hygiene doesn't help within 4 to 6 weeks, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is the first-line treatment and highly effective. Sleep apnea. Repeated pauses in breathing during sleep. You might snore loudly, gasp for air, or wake up choking. Left untreated, sleep apnea triples cardiovascular risk. See a doctor if you snore loudly, wake up gasping, or feel excessively sleepy during the day, despite seemingly adequate sleep. Restless leg syndrome. Uncomfortable sensations in your legs and an irresistible urge to move them. Symptoms peak in the evening and disrupt sleep onset. See a doctor if leg discomfort regularly delays your sleep. Narcolepsy. Excessive daytime sleepiness and sudden sleep attacks. Some people also experience cataplexy, sudden muscle weakness triggered by emotions. See a doctor if you have overwhelming daytime sleepiness despite adequate nighttime sleep. Circadian rhythm disorders. Your internal body clock is misaligned with your desired sleep schedule. See a doctor if you consistently can't fall asleep until very late, despite wanting to sleep earlier. Perimenopause and menopause. Women often experience sleep disruption due to hot flashes, night sweats, and hormonal fluctuations. This affects 40 to 60% of women going through menopause. See a doctor if sleep disruption persists for more than 3 months. The bottom line? If you've genuinely tried good sleep hygiene for at least a month and you're still exhausted, don't suffer in silence. Sleep disorders are real medical conditions with effective treatments. Steve's story isn't exceptional. It's ordinary. Millions of people live the way Steve used to, exhausted, relying on stimulants and quick fixes, stuck in patterns they know aren't serving them. What made Steve's journey successful wasn't willpower or perfection. It was the decision to stop looking for shortcuts and start addressing the real problems. If you're reading this, you're probably where Steve was, tired of being tired, ready to try something different. Here's the roadmap. Start with the easy wins. Cool, dark, quiet bedroom. Blackout curtains. Fresh air. Add the next layer. Warm evening shower. Morning sunlight. Dim lights after 9 p.m. Address your habits. Caffeine cutoff. Alcohol limits. Light dinner. Build your wind down. 60 to 90-minute pre-sleep routine. Protect your time. Schedule daytime breaks. Limit evening episodes. Move your body. Exercise during the day. Don't force it. 20-minute rule. Consider additional tools. progressive muscle relaxation, acupressure mat. You don't have to do all of this at once. Start with 1 or 2 changes. Build the habit, then add another. Progress, not perfection. Remember the 14-day sleep diary from part 1? Pull it out again. This time, track not just your problems, but your experiments. Note which changes you implement, how they feel, what improves. Be honest, be patient, be consistent. Your body wants to sleep well. It's designed for it. You're not broken. You've just been working against your biology. Now you know how to work with it instead. I know we covered a lot today. From Steve's desperate search for quick fixes through TikTok hacks to his 8-step evidence-based transformation. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed right now, that's completely normal. But here's what gives me hope. You made it to the end of this episode. That means you're not looking for shortcuts anymore. You're ready to do the real work. And that's powerful. Before you go, I want to remind you that we publish new episodes every Tuesday. We also have a blog on our website where every podcast episode is accompanied by a detailed article containing all the key information we discussed today. You can download free additional materials, including that 14-day sleep diary we keep mentioning. And speaking of the science, all the research we referenced today, every study, every finding, you'll find complete citations and links in this podcast episode's description. We believe in transparency and giving you access to the sources so you can explore further if you want. If you found value in today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with friends or family who might be struggling with similar issues. Sometimes, understanding that we're not alone in this struggle and that there are real, science-based solutions, that knowledge alone can be incredibly empowering. Next Tuesday, we'll be exploring a completely new topic, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Until then, take care of yourself. Start with one small change this week. Just one. Your future rested self will thank you. Sweet dreams. Your Space Today is published every Tuesday at 6 p.m. For detailed information, disclaimers, scientific references, visit the links below this podcast. This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider regarding any health concerns.